All right, let's dive into one of the weirdest, most mind-bending thought experiments in all of philosophy. We're going to talk about a creature that looks like a person, acts like a person, but on the inside, there's just nothing. I mean, seriously, think about it for a second. You see people acting, you hear them talking, but you can never, ever get inside their head and see what they're seeing or feel what they're feeling. You just assume there's an inner world there. But what if you're wrong? So this is the big idea. It's called a philosophical zombie, or a P-zombie for short. Now, this isn't a Hollywood zombie. It's a perfect physical copy of a human being. If you poke it with a pin, it'll yelp ouch just like you would. Its brain will even light up on a scanner in the exact same way. But here's the kicker. It doesn't actually feel anything. No pain, no joy, no experience at all. The lights are on, but nobody's home. Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine a counterfeit $20 bill that's so perfect, it's identical to a real one, right down to the last molecule. It has all the right physical properties, the ink, the paper, but it's missing that one crucial non-physical thing, actual value. It's not really money. Well, a P-zombie is like that counterfeit bill, but for consciousness. Okay, so where did this whole crazy idea even come from? And why on earth do philosophers get so worked up about it? Well, the basic concept has been floating around for a bit. Back in 1970, a guy named Keith Campbell talked about an imitation man. Then in '74, Robert Kirk gave it that killer name, zombie. But the person who really turned it into a philosophical wrecking ball, that was David Chalmers in the mid-90s. He's the one who weaponized the idea. And that's the whole point, you know? This isn't just a spooky story to mess with your head. It's a serious, full-on philosophical argument, and it's aimed at a huge fundamental belief about the nature of our reality. That big belief is called physicalism, and it's basically the idea that everything is physical. If you knew every single physical fact in the universe, every atom's position, every law of physics, you'd know the whole story. There's nothing else. So from this point of view, consciousness isn't some magical pixie dust. It's just what happens when physical stuff, like our brains, gets arranged in a super complex way. So here's how Chalmers builds the argument. Step 1. Can you just imagine a P-zombie? Does it seem like a coherent thought? Most people say, yeah, I can picture that. Step 2 is the big controversial leap. If you can imagine it, the argument goes, then it must be metaphysically possible, like it could exist in some possible reality. And if a zombie world is even remotely possible, that means you can have all the physical stuff of our world without consciousness. And that would make consciousness an extra non-physical ingredient in the universe. Which would mean, boom, physicalism is false. Now you can bet the physicalist philosophers weren't just going to sit back and take that. Oh no, they came back swinging, aiming right for the weak spots in this whole zombie argument. The main battleground is that jump from I can imagine it to it's actually possible. I mean, think about it. You can imagine a mountain made of solid gold. Seems possible. But can you imagine a married bachelor? Nope. It's a logical contradiction. The words just cancel each other out. So the critics of the zombie argument say, hey, maybe a P-zombie isn't like a golden mountain. Maybe it's like a married bachelor, something that sounds like an idea, but is actually just nonsense. Philosopher Dennett has a really clever takedown of this. He says, look, if you truly imagine a creature that's physically identical to us, it would also have to have internal brain states that make it think it's conscious. He calls this a zimbo. This zimbo would write poetry about its feelings, argue about its inner life, all while being completely wrong, in a way that's impossible for anyone, including itself, to ever discover. For Dennett, the whole idea just falls apart into incoherence. So yeah, the pushback really comes in a few main flavors. You've got the people like Dennett who say the whole idea is just plain inconceivable. Then you have another group that says, okay, fine, I can imagine it, but that doesn't prove it's actually possible in any real sense. And finally, there's a third camp that says the whole argument is just a cheat, that it secretly assumes from the start that consciousness is non-physical, which is the very thing it's trying to prove. All right, so with these heavyweight arguments on both sides, where does that leave us? What do philosophers actually think about all this today?
Well, this is where it gets really fascinating. After decades and decades of intense debates, nobody agrees. There is absolutely zero consensus on this.
Just look at this data from a 2020 survey of professional philosophers. The biggest group, 37%, think zombies are conceivable, but not actually possible. About a quarter of them think they are possible, meaning physicalism is false. And another 16% think the whole idea is just inconceivable from the start. I mean, it is a near perfect split. The entire field is completely fractured over this. And this quote from Robert Kirk, remember, the guy who coined the term zombie, he just nails it. He basically says that even though the arguments have gotten way more complex over the years, no one's really changing their mind. The fundamental gut feelings on each side are just too powerful. So, why should any of us care about this bizarre philosophical deadlock? Well, because at the end of the day, it's not really about zombies. It's about us.
The P-zombie idea is really a tool, like a philosophical crowbar. It's designed to pry open what David Chalmers famously called the hard problem of consciousness. The easy problems are things like, how does our brain process information? But the hard problem is, why does any of that processing feel like anything from the inside? Why is there an inner movie playing in your head right now? Why is there a what it's like to see the color red or to feel happy?
And this kind of thinking isn't happening in a vacuum. The P-zombie is just one strange tool in a whole philosophical toolkit filled with these things, all designed to push our understanding of the mind, our identity, and reality itself to their absolute breaking point.
You've got other brain twisters like Swampman, which asks if a perfect replica of you made by a lightning strike would still be you. Or Mary's Room, about a color scientist who knows every physical fact about color but has never seen it. And the Chinese Room, which probes whether a machine can ever truly understand anything. P-zombies fit right into this family of puzzles.
So I'll just leave you with this. As AI gets more and more sophisticated, this is not just an abstract debate anymore. Imagine one day a perfect android looks you in the eye and insists that it has feelings, that it has an inner life. It would pass every single test you could possibly design. And you'd be stuck with the exact same problem we started with. How could you ever know for sure? And what does that uncertainty tell us about the nature of our own minds?